Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today we are ranking all 9 Best Picture nominees for the 2018 Oscars. The Academy Award nominations were recently released, and this year we received 9 nominees out of the possible 10 slots for Best Picture. And this is maybe the first time ever that I saw every single Best Picture nominee before nominations were even released. So, of course, I'm ready to share my opinion and rank these movies. But this turned out actually to be a bit harder than I was anticipating. There were no movies here that I disliked. I actually think all 9 are solid films, so there's not like a big haterade moment up in here. But there were only a select few that I loved, that I really latched onto. So everything under that love level was hard to put into an order. But I've thought about it, I've gathered my thoughts, I've went back, revisited the films in my head, and I've come up with my ranking. So this is just my ranking. It's not my prediction on how likely these movies are to win the award for Best Picture at the Oscars. It's not based on any sort of critical review or Rotten Tomatoes score, just solely how much I liked the films. And it is my opinion, so if you have a differing opinion, I would love to hear everyone else's list in the comments down below. But with that, let's go ahead and jump in to the countdown. Darkest Hour is for sure the weakest entry here for me. I'm actually a little bit shocked it made it into the Best Picture category, but it is still a solid movie. There are plenty of interesting and thrilling moments in here. It is a perfect complement to another Best Picture nominee that has yet to be named, and it does have a very good performance from Gary Oldman, as well as others. Some of our background characters, such as Lily James, I thought gave a great performance. But I think it has so many weird tonal shifts between, like, cartoonish characterizations of Churchill himself and, like, trying to be funny with these, like, off one-liners or showing Churchill in, like, really weird scenarios to more serious moments. And it just kind of, like, flows in and out of them at a very weird rate to me. So that didn't mesh. Plus, the characterization of everyone who isn't Churchill, there wasn't much. So a good, solid film with a fantastic score, but one that is very uneven as a finished product. And that's why Darkest Hour lands in the 9th spot. Upon leaving the theater, I really was high on 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. But as I thought more and more about it, as time has passed on and on, it's actually slid further and further down my ranking, to the point where it slid all the way outside of at least my top 25 movies of the year, which I wouldn't have thought the case as I was leaving the theater. This film is anchored by fantastic performances. The acting in this movie is amazing. From Frances McDormand to Sam Rockwell to Woody Harrelson, everybody here gives a very, very good to great performance. Plus, I think the script is solid, but the script actually is the main reason this has fallen out of favor a little bit with me. I think the dialogue is great, and I love that we have really complex, flawed characters across the board, and especially in Mildred, who is by far my favorite character here. But nobody actually goes anywhere. All of our characters end up in virtually the same place they started the movie in. As much as I love Mildred Hayes as a character and how funny she was, because I laughed a lot in this movie, she doesn't actually evolve as a person very much, if at all. And Sam Rockwell evolves as a person, but not actually. His evolution and his character development doesn't actually feel very earned, and the end message with Sam Rockwell is very muddy. Plus, like with a lot of Martin McDonagh's material, I think it's vulgar just for vulgarity's sake for a lot of the film. I found myself sitting there being like, oh my gosh, who talks to their mother like this? Or we had Woody Harrelson reading out this beautiful, supposed to be heartfelt speech for his wife in a letter, and it just is thrown in with like this really off-colored vulgarity. And I was like, oh, I mean, this could have been a beautiful moment, and it's just off-putting a little bit. So, upon first viewing, I thought Three Billboards was fantastic, but as I continued to think about it and continue to analyze the script itself and the writing, it's fallen down to number 8 for me personally. Dunkirk provided one of the top 3 theater experiences for me on this list. I saw this in 70mm film on the big screen, and it was breathtaking. This movie, from all technical standpoints, is fantastic. Visually stunning, the score is fantastic, and just the sound mixing and editing is also wonderful. So from all technical categories, beautifully, pretty much perfectly made film. However, that script once again comes into play with Dunkirk. And I know the big argument has been that character development and the characters themselves and the individuals are not the point of this film. However, the script is just so scattered with how it's executed, and the fact that we don't know anything about them. The fact that we actually have deaths in this movie or big injuries that take place, and you kind of just are like, well, I mean, this is war and I don't know who you are, so you don't feel urgency with the characters because you don't care about any of the characters. So ultimately, Dunkirk looked beautiful, it sounded amazing, but it didn't emotionally resonate with me, like, at all. Even less so than Three Billboards, which I ranked lower than that on this list. Phantom Thread actually was a big surprise for me. I'm not a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I don't really love his method of storytelling a lot of the time. And I didn't have much of an interest for this heading into the theater. I was seeing it because it's Daniel Day-Lewis's final performance, and I knew it was going to be up for at least a couple of Oscars. I didn't anticipate it to receive all the love it got from the Academy, but I left thinking, wow, I liked that a whole lot more than I ever anticipated. It really builds this aura, this atmosphere that is so tension-filled and wonderful throughout most of the film. We have 3 fantastic performances from our leads and main supporters that just make this amazing. Daniel Day-Lewis, of course, is wonderful here, but so are our 2 leading ladies. They kill it, as we saw with the Best Supporting Actress category. The costumes are gorgeous, the cinematography is beautiful, and I think the directing overall is really fantastic. These are, again, complex characters. They feel lived in. They're not just one note. But the common theme for a lot of these bottom half films is the script kind of falls apart as we move further and further into the film, where it devolves into a very strange ending. An ending that on the surface you can kind of understand why the characters are doing what they're doing just from a logical standpoint, but especially for Daniel Day-Lewis's character, the ending is completely out of character. It's not a decision that feels organic to the character that has been created throughout the entire film. And really, this off-putting ending is what kept it from breaking into the top 5 on my list, but I still think it is a very good film. Lady Bird is a coming-of-age story executed very, very well. Once again, we have fantastic performances from Saoirse Ronan to Lucas Hedges to Laurie Metcalf, who I think anchors this entire film and really gives the best performance of the film and, for my money, the best supporting actress performance of the year. But the script on Lady Bird is just tight, smart, and really well done. So the script is not the problem here overall. And we've seen coming-of-age stories over and over again, but when they're executed this well, they're always a joy. Lady Bird only comes in smack dab in the middle for me because I have a problem with the Greta Gerwig character in films. And Saoirse Ronan really is that Greta Gerwig character here, and they always come off as just too selfish for me. They come off as just the world revolves around me a bit much. In every single film Greta's in, and then she wrote the Saoirse Ronan character, Lady Bird, to be that character here. So I personally didn't relate to this character as much as everybody else seemed to. I would get those glimpses when Laurie Metcalf's mother would come on as more mentally abusive, and I think if we had kind of shown those shades a little bit stronger than making it a simple, like, tumultuous mother-daughter, like, prima donna preteen with an overbearing mother type situation, then it would have been a stronger impact on me personally. But as it is, it's well executed on all filmmaking standpoints. I found our lead to fall into that overly selfish Greta Gerwig stereotype a bit much. The Oscar bait movie of the season, The Post, is at least a very, very well executed Oscar bait type of film. First of all, Steven Spielberg directs the heck out of The Post. This is probably his most inspired direction in a very long time. The shots here are beautiful. It's a lean, mean, just storytelling machine. There is no fat to be had here. And of course, that is aided by fantastic performances from both Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, as we would expect, right? It's timely, it's poignant, and it tells a very interesting and needed story. But as great as it is, it doesn't make the top 3 because it has a whole lot of been there, done that feel to it. It is something we've seen many times before. It's very well executed, but it is a kind of story type and structure that we've experienced it in the past, where the top 3 really stand out for innovation, for pushing the envelope and being different, while The Post feels like a very good version of movies we see time and time again. Get Out, up at number 3 for me. First of all, Jordan Peele provides fantastic direction, but an even more fantastic screenplay. I think this may be my favorite screenplay of the entire year. Some people think the third act really falls off the rails. I don't necessarily agree. I don't have a big problem with the third act, and the first 2 acts are just stellar. Like, near perfection level. Much like The Post, this is very socially relevant, but I think it actually comes off much more sophisticated and sleek in its current relevancy than The Post does. It's not as in your face, and it's dealing with race relations, so that's an even bigger shock. And the racial divide is clear here, but it's never preachy. It's never like, ugh, roll your eyes, we're doing this, really. No, this is a thrilling, organic, smart, intelligent, wonderful thriller. Daniel Kaluuya gives a fantastic performance. Allison Williams is great. It has the perfect blend of that social justice intelligence with horror and thriller, and then sprinkle in just enough comedy. I think Get Out is just a beautiful film, and I'm so glad that the Academy recognized it with a Best Picture nomination. Guillermo del Toro refines his footing after several years of questionable filmmaking. The Shape of Water is arguably del Toro's best film he has ever made. And not arguably, at the very least, the best film he's made since Pan's Labyrinth. This movie is just fantastic. First of all, del Toro's directing is amazing. This is his vision, and that's what we love about Guillermo del Toro. He has a vision, and then when he can execute it how he would like to see it come to screen, you get this type of magic. It is an unconventional love story laid on top of the skeletons of a much more conventional storytelling device, which I think is brilliant. If you're going to introduce a mute woman falling in love with a water creature, you need to make it accessible so that the masses will at least accept what it is you're trying to sell. And I think he does that beautifully well. The color palette in this movie is just fantastic. The visual effects and practical effects to bring the aquatic creature to life are amazing. Doug Jones just looks wonderful. The musical score was my favorite musical score of the year. I just was completely entranced with it. I think it used music as effectively as something like Baby Driver, but without the soundtrack and just an original score, and that's quite the feat within itself. And then we get to these performances. Sally Hawkins, I think, gives the best performance of the year. She is so fantastic without even having to say a word. She learns sign language and she communicates so much with no dialogue. It's truly an amazing performance to watch. Octavia Spencer is wonderful as always. Richard Jenkins is wonderful. Michael Shannon is fantastic as always as well. Michael Stolberg, in one of his many unrecognized performances this year, also brings a lot to this story. I just fell in love with The Shape of Water. I was completely enchanted and I was completely satisfied. I loved this film. Was there really any doubt? If you saw my top 10 movies of the year, if you follow me on any of my social media, or have heard me gush on and on about this movie since I first saw it, there shouldn't be any surprise that Call Me By Your Name is my pick for the best film nominated for Best Picture. I am so obsessed that I've already seen this movie 3 times in the theater. I can't stop thinking about it. Every time I get out of the movies to see this, I'm ready to get right back into that theater and watch it again. I was so heavily impacted by this movie in comparison to any of the other nominees here, but also pretty much any other film released over the past year. I really do think Call Me By Your Name is a nearly perfectly executed film. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. The script is adapted wonderfully for the screen, and Luca's beautiful directing style is amazing. He takes his time. It is deliberate. It lets you live in this film, which is a beautiful thing to behold in this day and age of filmmaking. And as we move through these leisurely first 2 acts of the film, you don't get that full payoff until the 3rd act of what it is that those first 2 acts were doing. But man, does it pay off. You understand the type of emotional attachment you have gained to these characters and to the story that is being told, because it all hits you in those feels hard when it comes on in. And that is anchored by an amazing dialogue from Michael Stolberg, who gives an amazing performance in this film. Out of all of the wonderful performances he gave, this was his best of 2017. And then that final shot, simply amazing. Just fantastic. That final shot is what really seals up this whole film. Timothée Chalamet is amazing. I think he gives the best male performance of the year, and it's perfectly encompassed by the nuance and the subtlety within his performance, and it all comes to head in that final shot. He's simply fantastic. Armie Hammer is going unrecognized for an amazing work here in this film. Also subtle, also nuanced, not a flashy role, but the development in his character is fantastic. Where he starts and where he ends up in this movie are so far apart, but you never really see it. It just kind of gradually takes place, and Armie Hammer does it beautifully. Plus, the original music here is amazing. Ugh, just everything. I absolutely love Call Me By Your Name, and it's definitely my favorite of the Best Picture nominees for this year. So that is my ranking of the 9 movies nominated for Best Picture at the 2018 Oscars. What did you think of my ranking and what I had to say about each of the film? And more importantly, what is your personal ranking? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or of course, you can hit me up on Twitter. And if you liked this video, go ahead, click that like button down below as well, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!